3, 2, 1.
Good day, and thank you for joining us for another important wildfire update. I'm Heather Fairbairn, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Again, today we are joined by quite an extensive cast of folks involved in the response, and I want to thank each of them for making themselves available during this very critical time to speak with us. So today we'll have remarks from Premier Tim Houston, Mayor Mike Savage, Warden Eddie Nickerson from the Municipality of the District of Barrington, Warden Penny Smith, Municipality of the District of Shelburne. We've got several representatives from the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, including Scott Tingley, Manager of Forest Protection, Dave Rockwood, Public Information Officer for the Shelburne Initiative, Dave Steeves, Public Information Officer for Tantallon. Also joining us from the Red Cross is Bill Lawler, Atlantic Director of Government and Strategic Relations. And finally, Bob Robichaud, Warning Preparedness Meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Also joining us for the Q&A portion, we'll have Deputy Chief Roy Hollett, Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency, and joining us from the RCMP, Corporal Chris Marshall, Public Information Officer. And Chris, of course, will be able to take questions in French. And so without further ado, allow me to introduce the Premier of Nova Scotia, the Honourable Tim Houston. Go ahead, Premier.
Thank you, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. Weather has favored the fires all week, not the firefighters. We're hopeful that this will soon change. But all week, the crews fighting these fires continue to, in Jim's words on the morning briefing this morning, pound the hell out of these fires. They're hitting it with everything they have. And the effort to support them with resources continues, and it's coming together, continues to come together. 60 firefighters coming from Costa Rica, 17 from New England, and then another 18 over the next few days. And of course, our neighbors have been absolutely remarkable. Newfoundland has sent firefighters, and those water bombers that have been here all week, they're from Newfoundland. New Brunswick is here with water bombers, and now also a base for fire retardant material, PEI with firefighters and hose, Ontario with hose. Thank you to Premiers Fury, Higgs, King, and Ford, and I've heard from premiers across the country. And I have to say it means so much. The national system of provinces helping provinces is working. For one, D&D has committed firefighters for the sustained attack stage, which will give our firefighters a much needed break when that time comes. There's also a list of 140 Nova Scotians. That list is a growing list of names of volunteer firefighters from around the province that have stuck their hand up in the air and said, we can come and help. There's a process for working through that and mobilizing them as well. So everyone is digging deep. They're digging deep knowing that a stunning number of homes have been lost. And they're digging deep despite the fact that many of these fighting the fires and responding to the fires are evacuees themselves, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. I know many of you who have been evacuated in the Tantallon area are starting to receive news about the status of your home. If the news is the worst case scenario, I'm so sorry. And for those of you who are waiting patiently for information as to when you can get in to your home, even if it's for an hour, hopefully that's getting close, and the rain would certainly help. For those in Shelburne, as the crews identifies homes that have been lost, we will work shoulder to shoulder with our municipal partners, the wardens and the municipalities, to get that information to residents just as soon as possible. And in some cases, this may have even started. But through all this despair, through it all, 0 deaths, 0 missing persons, 0 serious injuries. This says a lot about the professionalism of the first responders that are leading the response. No lives lost, but an absolutely breathtaking amount of damage and many, many lives turned upside down. And I want everyone to know that everything that can be done is being done. There are thousands of heartwarming stories of people helping people. That's the Nova Scotia way, and it's shining through. I've also spoken to business owners who have businesses in the evacuation zones, and they have some immediate needs. So today I'm announcing that small businesses in the evacuation zones can apply for a one-time grant of up to $2,500 to help offset the costs of unanticipated business closures. This program will open on Monday. Everything happening in this province is about people helping people and government helping where it can. When the team leading the efforts asks for help, we do what we can. You've been seeing a lot of Scott and Dave on these calls, and we love those guys. They're absolutely incredible. But beside them is an entire team at DNRR and at the command center and across the first responder agency network, and they are incredible. They're absolute pros. I heard this morning that one of the helicopters was doing 50-second turnarounds yesterday, dropping and filling nonstop, 50-second turnarounds. Absolutely unbelievable. Our job is to support these folks, and the province-wide fire ban to mitigate risk was in response to their ask, limiting movement in the woods to mitigate risk. It's because they asked. They hire fines up to $25,000 to stop illegal burning. It's because there was an ask, and I understand fines are being issued. In the Windsor area, there was a concern about access to water to fight fires. So we acted on that to get the lake filled. The lake is filling up. When they ask, we do everything we can to respond. We support these experts with everything they ask for because they are the ones that can knock these fires down. And if we support them, we can get through this sooner. And the sooner the evacuations can be lifted. They're the experts. We're lucky to have them. But we also need some weather. Nova Scotians are glued to the weather forecast more than ever. We need rain. Hopefully that rain comes in sufficient amounts this weekend. But hang in there, everyone. We're together in this, and our hearts are with you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Premier. And now I would like to turn it over to His Worship, Mayor Mike Savage. Go ahead, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Heather, Premier, and folks on the call. I particularly want to acknowledge my municipal council colleagues and leaders who are doing so much in their community. Yesterday was a difficult day. On top of the wildfires here in Halifax, we had multiple flare-ups and new fires that our fire and emergency crews responded to quickly. There are many mourning the loss today of the historic Wagwalter Club, the main building in the south end of the city. It's hard to believe. I'm happy to report that there were no burn violation calls last night, so I think the message is getting out to people. Please, please don't burn. That's a bit of good news, and I want to thank everybody who's continuing to follow the province-wide fire ban and the woods ban. We truly do appreciate your cooperation. It's keeping people and it's keeping emergency personnel and property safe. In terms of the latest on the fires, I'm joined by Deputy Chief Roy Hallett. As of this morning, Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency crews remain on scene, and they're fighting fires burning in multiple areas with more than 837 hectares in the impacted area. Crews are working hard. I think we have some stabilization, but yesterday on this call, while we were talking to you, we had fires in Fall River and in downtown Halifax, and I think in Prospect as well, Deputy Chief. The area remains an active, unpredictable, and dangerous environment. Status of evacuations. The status of the evacuation areas continue to be assessed, and updates are being provided as soon as they're available. So we are always looking every day, really every hour, at the evacuation zone to see if we can return people to their homes. Those decisions are made on the professional opinion and direction of the incident commander, who is doing amazing work. Again, I say, don't text me or any counselors. We don't make those decisions, but we're hopeful that residents will soon be allowed to return to their homes. But we will not send anybody into an area that isn't safe. We know how stressful it is for those who've been displaced, and we want you to know that we're doing everything we can to get people back home. We're asking all residents, though, to remain clear of evacuation areas and refrain from flying personal drones. It impacts the firefighters' ability to do their work. Communicating with residents. Municipal staff continue to contact residents who have registered as evacuees in the areas of significant impact. To date, staff have had phone conversations with most residents, as well as face-to-face discussions as follow-up for those whose homes have been destroyed. It's ongoing. It will take time to contact every property owner who has been affected. This is a very traumatic time for everybody impacted by these fires, and staff are working as quickly as possible to make contact. I want to acknowledge Bill Moore, our Director of Community Safety, and Deputy Chief Roy Hallett, who did a press availability this morning on this, as we heard that there were some people who weren't getting the information that they needed. We are working on this issue, and we will take any advice that we can. We do not want to add stress to anybody who is losing a home. Some residents were able to view their property today, and we're working to schedule additional site visits over the coming days for folks who've lost their homes. We have to work safely, and we have to ensure that this happens quickly, sure, but safely for certain. Victim support services and mental health supports are on site at the Canada Game Centre today. Major insurance companies are also on site and are available to speak with affected residents. There are so many people to express thanks to. Just a few today I'd like to mention, as well as all the people who are working hard on the lines. We have people behind the scenes. I visited our call center today, and there are many people who are working, whose faces you don't see, whose voices you may not hear, but they're working incredibly hard. I want to acknowledge Discover Halifax and the Hotel Association, who are stepping up to help with accommodations for those who've been displaced. I ask you, if you're looking to contact a hotel, we're told to do it directly, not to go through Expedia or other services. Not that they don't do a good job, but they don't have the information that you need to get the best rate, and also to make sure that you have the accommodation that you need. And there is more information coming from Discover Halifax and the Hotel Association in the next day. Thanks as well to the many, many volunteers, businesses, and citizens who are stepping up to provide food, clothing, comfort space, tech boarding, accommodations to those who need it during this very challenging time. I want to acknowledge people like the Halifax Chamber of Commerce and Patrick Sullivan, who did so much to help us get through COVID with their leadership, who are doing the same to support businesses with this crisis. And they also made a $10,000 donation to the United Way, I believe it was, today. Our hearts go out to the people who have been most devastated by this fire, and our hearts swell with gratitude for those fighting to make sure that nobody else has to go through that. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Walalia.
Next, I'm pleased to introduce Warden Eddie Nickerson, Municipality of the District of Barrington. Go ahead, Warden.
Thank you, Heather, and thanks for the opportunity to allow me to speak on behalf of the Municipality of Barrington residents. It is a trying time. It's an unprecedented time here in Barrington and Shelburne County, for that matter. We are facing the largest fire in Nova Scotia in some time, if not the all time. It's challenging to get messages out, and the messages that we want to get out to our residents is we are experiencing a fire that we've never dealt with before. We're looking at wind change. It's unpredictable, and we just would like for our residents to understand that we may have to move on short notice. So be prepared. We are going to get through this. We're as the Premier has said, and Mayor Mike Savage has said, we are in this together. It's a provincial issue. I know there is work continues to add additional resources. Very appreciative to the resources that has been added of late. Thank you, Premier. I know you and DNR and staff has worked very hard on that and continue to do so. Certainly, I don't want to forget the volunteers that are here, the Red Cross, the community itself has come together, food, clothing, lodging, people have taken others into their homes. It's a community effort. The volunteer fire department, our local volunteers here in the volunteer fire department, they've been going countless hours from 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 or 1 o'clock at night, getting back to their families and the efforts that they've put forth. We are very appreciative of that. And again, I want to remind residents, be patient and stay out of the evacuated areas. Those are the water bombers are trying to keep that fire back, and the volunteers are in there trying to save homes. So please stay out of those evacuated areas, and again, I thank you for the opportunity and everybody be safe.
Thank you. We'll move along now. I'm pleased to introduce Warden Penny Smith with the Municipality of the District of Shelburne. Go ahead, Warden Smith.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of the discussion today. It's incredibly important for people to understand how severe the situation is in the municipality of Shelburne. And I can tell you as a community, we have certainly come together and just giving the support to each other as best that we can. I want to extend our deepest gratitude to our frontline workers, our firefighters, the Department of Natural Resources and Renewable staff, and others who are literally working around the clock to keep us safe. They are our heroes. More than 50% of our residents have been evacuated, as well as the Roseway Manor and the Surf Lodge nursing homes and the hospital and other facilities. When residents are safely evacuated, we ask that they register with the Red Cross. This ensures people can be contacted while away from home and can be reached with information on services and assistance that may become available to them. Important information on registration, comfort centers, accurate updates, supports, and other relevant information can be found on the Shelburne County East Emergency Management Facebook page, as well as the Municipality of Shelburne's. Also, residents who need assistance evacuating, they may call 902-875-8407, and someone will be able to assist you. I understand that our residents are worried about their homes and their properties. And while it has been confirmed that some structures, including homes, have been destroyed and some are still threatened, I have not received firm details on the number yet. Updates will be provided as soon as we know. We will also be working very closely with the province and federal governments to ensure that when we get through this, and we will get through this, that the supports that are needed will be there for our residents. I know our residents and our community are afraid and hurting. Believe me, we all are. The wildfires in our community will have lasting impacts, and now more than ever, we need to be kind and support each other. We are Shelburne County strong. We are Nova Scotia strong, and we will get through this together. And I hope everyone continues to follow the protocols that are put in place so that we remain safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Now we'll get an update from Scott Tingley, Manager of Forest Protection.
Thanks, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. So provincial wildfire update. To date, we're at now 209 wildfires. We do have currently 14 active fires, and 4 of those are out of control. Obviously, those out of control fires are the priority fires in terms of resourcing, and crews continue to contain small fires as they start and keep them small, and extinguish ones that have been ongoing for the last day or two. Approximate total area burn for the province is estimated at just over 23,000 hectares now. So as mentioned yesterday, we're into kind of historic in terms of recorded history. These are historic times for Nova Scotia and wildfire. And just wanted to acknowledge, the Premier's remarks there around the support. We mentioned yesterday, we're certainly seeing the results and feeling all that support, and we're hearing all the comments and messages of support that people are sending along. And just want to say we're hearing you. We really appreciate it, and it's really helping all the crews out there doing their hard work. So I'll turn it over to the Daves for the specific fire updates.
Okay, we'll go to Dave Rockwood, Public Information Officer, for an update on Shelburne. Thanks, Dave. Go ahead.
Hi, afternoon. Down here on the Barrington Fire Complex, we are sitting in the 20,515 hectare range on the Barrington fire. We are having growth at this moment. The weather's kind of picked up on us in the last hour, and this thing has grown some teeth. we're in the process of some wind shifts, so we're working closely with all our resources to keep them safe, and then as well communicating where we have to with the municipalities on that one. So you will see anybody in the local area. You will see unfortunately the column is back up today, quite heavy in the last hour and a half. The Pubnico fire, really glad that one's sitting at 138, which is actually down in number size since yesterday. Our crews, that's a sign that our crews have actually been able to walk around that perimeter of that. They've been doing a phenomenal job. So it's at 138 hectares, and I flew down to that one yesterday afternoon late, and it it gave me a good feeling. It was one of those, little pick-me-ups I needed. So Lake Fire, here's another one too. So that's the more accurate at 114 hectares. And again, when I flew in over that after coming back from Pubnico, I had a really good feeling of what our crews are doing. We've established a lot of dozer guard on that. And our the boys and girls in the woods are just, it's almost like they're running with those hoses. So today on the Barrington fire, I've got 90 personnel, NRR staff alone working on this. The Pubnico fire, we're sitting at 20 natural resources and renewable staff. And the lake fire, we're sitting with 15 natural resources. So that's a total of 125 natural resources and renewable staff down here on the Barrington complex. Of those, also I want to reach out and have a big shout out to our communication Nova Scotia staff that is here day in, day out, providing us support with our communications. Without them, we'd be really up the creek. Our EHS is on site with a small army to make sure that if something happens, they're here to take care of us, and as well as the locals. And again, I want to extend the big thanks to the municipality of Shelburne and Barrington. We are continuing to do work along the Barrington fire as well as the lake fire with our dozer guards. Again, we're going to be, today's going to test because we're going to have a full 180 wind shift, which means over time it's going to spin around and then push it back down towards that Barrington zone. Unfortunately, we're hoping it's kind of later in the evening. I think it's by like 9 p.m. tonight, we're going to have that wind pushing that way. We have our helicopters are down here. We're unfortunately down one with mechanical issues. We're down to one CL-415 tanker at this time, and New Brunswick just unfortunately recalled their 8 water bombers, and I'm not happy to report that, but they're having something going on up in the New Brunswick area, whether it's weather or an issue they have to respond to. We're sitting here with a lot of heavy iron. We're up to 12 dozers, D8s, D6s. Those are the biggest ones we're going to get in this province. We've got 9 excavators, and one of which is a 75-ton excavator, and that's not a small feat to get that here. I believe that's 3 trucks to just ship it in. We've got 9 floats just to help coordinate getting stuff around. We've got 3 woods porters machines and 4 feller bunchers. So we're watching this afternoon, really careful. We're keeping an eye on our people, and we're working closely with municipalities and give them brief if we have to give them briefings. The last thing I really want to touch on, we need, and I'm going to be a little blunt on this, we need people to stay out of our area. If you have no business, you haven't been granted access to our exclusion zones, to within the evacuation zones, you need to stay out. We've had many occasions that they are hindering and stopping our operations from our airships. They cannot drop if you are in our area. And I'm going to be straightforward. We have lost structures because of a number of these incidents where we've had to stop our aircraft from dropping. I know I'm not typically this kind of a hard-edge person, but that's where we're at. You need to stay out. Thank you.
Important message, Dave. Thanks. We'll move on to Dave Steeves for an update on 10 Talon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Yesterday was a difficult day. It was basically the conditions that we thought we were going to see. The relative humidity was low. The winds didn't get too bad, but the fine fuels were extremely dry. So through the calculations that we take with our weather programs, we knew there was going to be some aggressive fire spread with the potential of spotting. So we actually did increase our area size. So we moved from 837 to 950 hectares. So that is an increase. The fact that we were able to keep it to the level that we did is a result of the absolute heroic efforts by the firefighters on the front lines, the HRM firefighters, the DNR firefighters, Department of National Defense. Everybody is working like a well-oiled machine around here. Communication is flowing greatly between all of the agencies on site. So I'd like to send out a big thank you to everybody for all the hard work that they've done. We still have a long ways to go, but we're getting there day by day. As for today, our relative humidity is up to around 40%, which is of not of any benefit really to fire progression. So that is working in our favor, and we're hoping for some precipitation later on. So on site today, we currently have 40 Department of Natural Resources renewable staff, over 100 HRM firefighters, 6 from the Department of National Defense, over 30 apparatus from HRM. Our air resources currently consist of 5 helicopters and 1 CL-415. We also have a bit of heavy equipment on site. We've got 11 excavators and 3 dozers, and they are continuing to work on cat guards or fire breaks. What happened yesterday was not unexpected, but we did have to reroute resources because of a lot of the other fire-related incidents that popped up. Our HRM co-workers were great to respond to things quickly, and we had to reroute some of our air resources in order to deal with that. So we were stretched, but we were able to hold the line by the fantastic work by the people on the ground. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we'll go to Bill Lawler with the Red Cross.
Thank you, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. As of now, Canadian Red Cross has registered just under 7,000 households throughout the areas of impact. And that comprises of just over 17,000 individuals. If you've not yet registered, we would encourage you to do so at your earliest opportunity. The best way to do it is online at www.redcross.ca/Atlantic Wildfires, or you can call us from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 1-800-863-6582. I'm pleased to report for those who have registered with us so far on behalf of the province of Nova Scotia, as announced by Premier Houston earlier in the week. By the end of this press conference, in fact, we will have distributed the $500 to 3,400 households for a total of 1.7 million. That will continue each day. We will provide further distribution to the households every day, including weekends, until the need is no longer there. We have launched an appeal, as indicated earlier this week. To date, we have raised $852,000. We appreciate both the corporate sector and individuals who have contributed to these funds, and for those that will require the most support throughout the areas of impact. Those looking to donate can do so by going simply to our website at redcross.ca, or you can call us at 1-800-418-1111, and someone will be able to assist you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill. And we'll wrap up the formal remarks with Bob Robichaud from Environment and Climate Change Canada. Go ahead, Bob.
All right, thank you, Heather. Just first of all, in French, si qu'il y a des questions, je vais donner l'information en anglais, mais si il y a des questions en français, je peux prendre des questions en français. So the Premier mentioned earlier how important weather was in tackling these fires and the need for rain. And I'm happy to report that, yes, we are getting rain and lots of it over the next few days. So that's a positive thing. Looking at what we're looking at outside right now, there is a feature crossing Nova Scotia right now. We have temperatures 9 to 10 degrees north of that in northern Nova Scotia right now. On the other side, however, we were still seeing temperatures in the high 20s. We reached 30 earlier today in the Keji area. There are some scattered showers. There were some thunder showers that actually moved in overnight. And so we did have a few, some lightning associated with those. There still could be some thunder shower activity later this afternoon into the evening hours. But as we go into those evening hours, we will see that wind shift. We will see those cooler temperatures starting to come in and those showers becoming more organized and becoming more sustained in terms of rainfall in the evening and overnight hours. So we're looking at rain continuing into Saturday over many areas. And even into Sunday and Monday. So looking at our computer models for a longer term idea of rainfall, it looks like the area that needs the rainfall the most, which is southwestern Nova Scotia, or basically the western half of Nova Scotia, is going to get the most rain between now and about Tuesday. So that is definitely good news. And hopefully it comes quickly. So back over to you, Heather.
Great, thank you. We'll now take questions from media who are participating virtually. We'll do one question, one follow-up in the time we have available. And again, if you could identify which person your question is directed at, that would be a great help. We'll start with Keith Doucette from Canadian Press. Go ahead, Keith. Keith.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's for Mr. Rockwood. I'm just wondering about the size of this massive fire. You just can't seem to get a handle on it. Is it the winds and the weather conditions, or is it just that it grew to such a size that for the most part it's going to have to burn itself out, unfortunately, in many areas? Is that where we are with this fire?
No, we do need a change in the weather. We need the weather to kind of give us a hand. When these fires get this big, it's very hard to stop them no matter what equipment you have. You can't put your ground crews in front of it. If 40 water bombers they're not even going to make a difference. We've had situations where they can't even get in to attack the head of this fire over most of this week. But we're in what we call the spring dip. So that's when the last bit of the moisture has been pushed down into the root system of these trees. So there is no moisture in the portions above ground. Everything is bone dry. There's no fresh greenery on this. There's no moisture in those trees at all. Throw on top of the fact that these fires have gone through once, dried them out even more. So now it's a tinderbox. You throw the wind on top of that. You throw the fact that Western Nova Scotia hasn't ever really, I don't believe, recovered to the amount of water that they need in the last probably 5+ years, then it's created a perfect storm. So yeah, that's where we're at. It's got up. Once it starts rolling like a freight train, you cannot stop these machines, no matter what you think you have to throw at it. You're not going to stop them, and that's where we're at with this. We're hoping for a change here real soon.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Keith.
Okay, I'm looking for a follow or a clarification on the enforcement front. I know we have Corporal Marshall here, but I want to ask Mayor Savage, if he's still here, about yesterday's comment about you said you believe that 2 people were ticketed in Halifax, and Halifax police say they have not laid any tickets yet, as well as RCMP say none in the Halifax area. I'm just wondering where you got that information. Maybe it was DNR that did it? Are you able to clarify that a bit?
I'll ask Deputy Chief Hollett to speak to that.
Yes, from the 2 situations yesterday, our crews are conducting, our fire prevention crews are conducting an investigation, and we'll pass on the results to our fire prevention staff, who will follow up and determine charges are laid. Based on the initial information, fire prevention will be following up in the next day or 2. There is a process to lay a charge, so that's what we're following.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to CTV. Lindsay Armstrong. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Hi there. Thank you, Heather. My question is for the Premier. The federal government put out today its list of assistance plans for Nova Scotia. Is their offer enough as you see it today?
Thank you, Lindsay. So I guess what I'd say, I didn't see their fulsome release, and I haven't had a most recent briefing. I had a briefing this morning, and what I heard from our team here was that they felt like the process was starting to move. So look, I'm hopeful that I know the federal government understands the need. The need is obvious to anyone who's seen the pictures or video or talked to anyone. and they have to understand the urgency that people's homes are literally burning. So if you understand the need and you understand the urgency, then I have to have faith that they'll respond. And the initial feedback I had from the team this morning was that they felt like it was, that it was moving in a good direction.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Lindsay.
Thank you for that. Also to the Premier, I'm wondering, obviously, the most pressing need is addressing these structure fires. I'm wondering if there has been any movement made on the housing front in terms of ensuring spaces for those who are currently unhoused due to these wildfires.
Yeah, so I think the immediate needs for those that are evacuated, between the comfort centers, we have a lot of people staying with friends and family. We've had people open up their homes to complete strangers or cottages to complete strangers. So, there's a lot of that happening. And then as we get through this stage, we've lost a lot of homes, and we were already in a housing crisis. So, I did speak to somebody at a comfort center this morning who had lost their home, and they were kind of imploring me to work with all levels of government to at least make sure that there's no delay in permits and this type of stuff. So, that's something we'd already been working pretty close with the municipalities on, working with the federal government and other potential partners for modular homes. These are processes that were already in place for other reasons. We were talking to people about modulars for healthcare workers, for other types of situations. So those discussions take on another purpose now and renewed meaning, I guess, in many ways. So we know the issue is significant, but we're focused on it. We'll work with our municipal partners and get through this.
Next, we'll go to Jen Taplin at the Herald. Go ahead, Jen.
Hi there. I think this question is for Dave Steeves. Just wondering, you mentioned the Tantalon fire has grown. Just wondering if it's still at 50% contained.
Yes, we are still at 50% containment. We were able to extend some of our guards yesterday, so we didn't really lose much ground at all.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Jen.
Sure. Not sure who this is for, but the days of rain forecasted, how big of a difference is this expected to make in the wildfires?
Who wants
I can
to take that?
Take that just generally. So thanks to Bob for that forecast and whatever he's done to bring that in. It's certainly welcome. It's going to be a huge help, and what it's going to do is really help all the resources from the air and on the ground make even more progress than they've been able to make the last week. So it's very welcome, and it's going to give us a head start.
Moving on, we'll go to Paul Bacon with All Nova Scotia. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, my question's for the Premier. Premier, we just heard Mr. Rockwell say that New Brunswick has recalled its water bombers. It does bring up this issue of whether Nova Scotia needs its own fleet. What's your thinking about that?
Same as it was the last few days. I've been asked. I mean, obviously, when we get through this, we'll do a full assessment of the needs and work with the team to see what's appropriate. I would say, in the past, we have forest fires. We have forest fires every year. We have had a significant number of forest fires so far this year. It's early in the season, and I think Scott said it's already 209. I think I heard him say. So, many of those Nova Scotians don't know about, never hear about, because of the professional, quick responses of those that fight those fires. So we've had sufficient resources, I would say, to contend with what's been put in front of us as a province, except in very rare situations. Right now, this will probably turn out to be two, possibly, three of the largest fires this province has had. We have them at the same time. So it's completely unprecedented what's happening. But between our air capacity with the helicopters and stuff, we've had enough in the past. But looking forward, we're happy to make that assessment. Right now, New Brunswick recalled, yes, but I want to remind people too that the team has secured air cover, air support from it's on its way from Montana. I think three of those planes will arrive today, or did already arrive, or are in. But the important part about the 6 planes from Montana is that they're here. They're here as long as we need them. They can't be recalled. But New Brunswick had their situation. They had to recall. Totally respect that, because we're so thankful that they provided the support that they could for as long as they did. And same with Newfoundland. I mean, they've just been so supportive.
Okay, I guess my other question, the feds have approved the formal request for aid from us, and you had a lot of very specific asks. From where you are right now, what do you think is the most important thing they could send?
I'm worried we may have lost the Premier, Paul.
Okay, it happened.
I'm going to move on to the next outlet, and if we have time, we'll come back to that if the Premier is able to rejoin. Moving on to CBC's Blair Rhodes.
Hi there. My question would be for the mayor. Halifax was already in the middle of a housing crisis. What does the fact that 150 some homes have been destroyed do to the city's ability to deal with this crisis?
Thank you very much, Blair, for that question. Housing is of paramount concern for every mayor in the country right now, and I expect just about every premier as well. So we will do whatever we can, obviously, to accelerate that. We also have to make sure that we're building in a way that is responsible and sensible. There are many tens of thousands of units that are approved or are in the final stages of approval in Halifax. Our challenge is that we have a shortage of labor. The Premier mentioned bringing people in, healthcare workers. We're also, as a city, working on a plan to bring in people who can build, who can house in the short term, and what we have to do that. So that's an issue. We also have, I'll remind people, 800 to 900 people on the by name list of people who are homeless, who need support. And we have people in the woods who we have a ban on activity in the woods, and our navigators are working with people who are living in the woods now to find them accommodation. The province have a couple of places in the Halifax area where they have made available. The federal government, through the Rapid Housing Initiative, have provided support. We want to build, that we have many thousands of potential units that are going through a development process that has been accelerated by things like the center plan. We recognize the need for housing, and we're doing everything we can to accelerate it.
You have a follow-up, Blair?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we'll check in with Evan Taylor with Acadia Broadcasting. Go ahead, Evan.
My first question was for the Premier, so if he comes back, I'd love to be called on again. But in the meantime, for Dave Rockwood, I'm wondering if you can speak to the ground conditions in the area and how susceptible they'll be this evening and over the weekend to thunder strikes potentially causing and starting fires to reignite or grow in new areas. I know Bob mentioned that there's a risk for them, and wondering if the ground's wet enough to limit that risk.
I think straightforward at this point, like the rain that's come into Halifax, we didn't receive any of that down here. Lightning, typically on a normal year, if we do get lightning, it's not like the lightning strikes the ground and there's an instant spontaneous combustion. Under these conditions, if there is dry lightning, it is definitely a major concern for us. But that's a concern that our fire control monitors. We have various groups that we work with to monitor the weather so that when there are lightning strikes, especially severe lightning strikes, we get the local offices are updated with locations of where these lightning strikes were. So are we concerned? Yes, but we have contingencies in place. And with the extra resources coming into the province, we'll deal with it as another fire. That's unfortunately where we're at.
Okay, Evan, I see the Premier was able to rejoin. Do you want to ask your question? And then after that, we'll go back to Paul Bacon.
Thank you. Premier Houston, wondering if you can speak to the situation in Windsor closing the sluways and filling Lake Pisiquid in response to concerns from local firefighters in that area. I know that would be in opposition to DFO's order for how that's supposed to operate, but is also what the province wants. So just hoping we can get a little more clarity on how that decision was arised to, and if DFO signed off on it or you superseded them on this one.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. Sorry we dropped off there, but yeah, we had concerns from the local first responders about the ability to access water with the concerns over the fires around the province, and certainly calls they were responding to in their area. With the lake being dry, it was below the level that their pumps would draw from for their hydrants and for their system. So obviously we couldn't stand for that. So Minister Lohr issued the order to close the gate and put water back in the lake as a matter of public safety. Public safety, always the number one concern for us. So this was a public safety concern. So we took action immediately to make sure that there's water there should the need arise. We couldn't have a situation where we couldn't access water to fight a fire if it arises. Couldn't stand for that. So we're taking action.
Okay, I'll circle back now to Paul Bacon for your second question, Paul.
Hi, Premier. Just the long list of requests that you sent the feds. From where you're standing right now, from what you've seen today, what do you think is the most important thing you need?
Well, I think if you ask the Scott and the Daves and the team at the DNRR, it's the air cover. It's dropping, you know, the ability to bomb these fires with water from the air. So that would be any capacity around there, whether it's helicopters or fixed wings. That's a priority. And just, you know, I think a number of things on that list would be considered high priority. Equipment, hoses, obviously critical when you're trying to circle a fire. Pumps to move water through those hoses, absolutely critical. Foam to spray on them, retardant material to spray on fires. They're all critical. And of course, bodies, firefighters, properly trained firefighters. So they're all critical. The need is extensive. That's why the list was extensive, and we put them all together. As I say, the discussions have been going on for a number of days through a number of channels. But we'll put them all in one place to make sure everyone had clear view of it and make sure we can get a appropriate response from the federal government.
Thanks. I know we've got a hard stop coming up, so I'll check in with our final outlet, Tim Biscay with the Halifax Examiner. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi, thank you and good afternoon. I have a question for the Premier and the Mayor, which is, do we have any idea yet what the public costs of the emergency response and all the support programs is so far?
Speaking from the province, no, and also it doesn't matter. We've been very clear with the people fighting these fires that are out there every day, putting their lives on the line to protect fellow Nova Scotians, to protect property. Whatever you need to fight these fires, we're going to do our best to get it. That still stands. That will stand still all the way through this. And supporting Nova Scotians, fighting these fires, that's the number one priority. It'll cost what it costs. Cost is not a consideration in any decision that our government will make when it comes to public safety.
Heather, can I speak to that as well then?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tim. My answer is similar to the Premier's. We don't know exactly what the cost is. We know that there are costs. There's one thing I want to say, and that is this, that later in the summer, the HRM Sunshine list will come out of salaries, and people will see a lot of first responders on there. And when that list comes out, I want people to think about what they're doing this week and what those first responders are doing this week. No, it's amazing what folks are doing. I'm sitting beside an experienced firefighter. We have so many people who are out right now going beyond what should be their capacity working on this. We have police officers and RCMP officers who are helping with the evacuation in and out. So, Tim, I'm sorry I don't have a cost. When we have a cost, we'll certainly let you know.
And Tim, do you have a final question?
I do, for Dave Rockwood. You said that you had alluded to water bombers not being able to drop their loads because people are in the woods. Can you elaborate a bit on that? Are there these people who are visiting their own properties and their houses were burned down, or what was the situation there?
So we've had a number of different circumstances where people have just come into the fire zone, try to get pictures. You know, we've had boats out on lakes that just, we're not even sure where the people have come from. They've just popped out and crossing the lake. And then when a CEL 415 comes in, you don't want to be in that thing's way. And, you know, thank goodness the pilot caught onto it and there wasn't an incident. And then we had other circumstances where individuals have come into area to check on friends' camps who live out of province. The unfortunate thing there is their actions caused us not to be able to drop the bombs. The water bombers in, they had to pull out, and that structure specifically was lost. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating for our ground crews that are already stressed and pushed right now. So we need people to stay out no matter what the circumstance.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have today. I want to thank everyone for joining us and be safe out there.